Sorry, I'm back.
All right, cool.
She has such a nice, pleasant voice.
She does.
It's like just calming. I wonder if she's like the Facebook Siri. Well, Amy, your hair looks fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
It's like I'm checking mine. I'm like, you know.
Just typing in the title.
So one of the funny things is I'm doing this on my 27-inch iMac. So one thing I'm noticing, like I'm like looking at your face here, but it looks like I'm completely schizophrenic because I'm not even looking anywhere close at you. So I'm like, yeah, and having this conversation, and yeah, so I'm gonna try to focus on the Marvel comic because that's actually really pretty cool.
Awesome.
Okay. Sounds good. That sounds great.
All
Okay,
right.
we're live,
All
bro.
right, I'm gonna go live.
I felt a leg pinch. I'm just saying.
That's all you.
All right. Hey, Facebook. We're Amy and Andy with Sunshine and Rain Photography, and we're based out of Arizona, and we're the community directors for SLR Lounge.
We're pretty stoked today to be joined by Brian Mullins of Brian Mullins Photography out of North Carolina.
It's North Carolina. That's how you're supposed to say
North
it.
Carolina.
North Carolina. You have the draw.
How are you today, Brian?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're good.
Fantastic.
We're warm, so
Yeah, we're not. Not even close.
cool. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
And for everybody joining in, we're gonna talk about Brian's business a little bit, and then we'll get over onto slrlounge.com, take a look at some of his photographs, and also we'll get into some critique. We're gonna be looking at a few wedding portraits. So we're really excited to have Brian here to do that because that's his jam.
Yeah. Right.
Cool.
Cool, bro.
So just to start out, why don't you tell us a little bit about Brian Mullins Photography?
Oh gosh. So it's actually a really interesting story how I got into it. I never actually intended to be a photographer. We've all heard, of the terms of using people or just using you. Sorry, we have the terms that have been used to describe the people who buy a camera to take pictures of their kids, and then they, become professionals. So I am the dadographer. Um, and what was really funny was, a long time ago, I actually wanted to be a filmmaker. So um, everything I had known at that point was film. But at this point, when I was, it's about 12 years ago, digital was really starting to take the forefront, and it didn't make sense to go down the film route. So I bought a digital camera, and I paid like $500 for this, a little Olympus point and shoot. You could take it underwater. And I'm like, yes, I paid a lot of money for a good camera. Took a photo, and it was crap. So, okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Took a couple more photos. Still look like crap. All right, something's going on here. So I called the one guy who I knew was a professional photographer, and it was the guy who had photographed my wedding. And his words to me were, buy a better camera. And I got really confused at that point. I was like, okay, I thought I had a good camera. So anyway, long story short, I bought a Canon Rebel XTI. And I called, his name is David Schiabrazi. I called him back up and said, okay, dude, I have a camera now. What do I do? And he gave me a couple of hints. I was like, all right. And then about a week later, he calls me. He goes, hey, Brian. He goes, dude, I know you have this camera. I have a magazine shoot that I need to go do, but I can't do it. Can you go? But no, man, you're kidding me. He goes, no. He goes, look, if you go out there and you don't get anything, it's a house that's decorated for Christmas. He goes, I shot the house last year, so even if you don't get anything, I'll just give them stuff that I got last year and they won't even know.
Oh man.
All right, fine. So I go out there and I'm like, yeah, I'm shooting for a magazine. This is so cool. And I go out and I start shooting all this stuff, and I have 12 photos that are keepers. And I send them all my photos, and I've got this exuberance, and I'm so excited. And I'm like, dude, what do you think, man? Aren't these things awesome? And he looked at me and goes, yeah, they're crap. We're just using the stuff I shot last year. So, bubble officially bursted at that point.
Oh.
But the funny thing was he's like, but you have an eye, so I'll give you some tips, and you got a lot of technical flaws and stuff. Do you want to go back out? Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, that'd be great. I go out, and he gives me an assignment to shoot a crossing guard at a local elementary school. And this guy had been doing the job for like 20 years, and it's like this local icon. And I go out there, I'm sitting in my car, I'm waiting for something to happen, and it starts to rain. No kids are crossing. And I'm like, okay, this is a problem. So I go back, I'm like, yeah, man, no kids cross. So he's like, well, why don't you go back out? So I go back out and do a shoot, and ended up getting a double truck spread in a magazine, which is where one photo spans both pages of crossing guard with kids, crossing sign in the background, and dude, I got so hooked. I was like, that's so cool. And it has my name under the photo. I was like, that's awesome. So I really started working in the magazine world for about a year and a half, and I ended up taking his job as the chief of photography. And when he left there, about another couple months went by, and he called me up and goes, hey, man, I need someone to shoot a wedding with me. Do you just want to come out? I was like, oh, yeah, cool. I can do magazine stuff. How hard can a wedding be, right? Yeah, bubble bursted for the second time in my photography career. I was so ill prepared to shoot a wedding. It was kind of crazy. Luckily, he was doing all the stuff, and I was just there for kind of auxiliary support. But I got like 2 shots that were decent. But again, I just got hooked. So that's actually when I started my company. Was after I had been shooting for a magazine for a while. So I know you asked me about my company. That's kind of important to tell you kind of how I started, because I really got entrenched in the commercial side and the editorial side, and also on the wedding and portrait side, and I still do that to this day. I still do half my work's commercial, and half the work's is wedding, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's awesome. That is the best how I got into photography story I think I've ever heard. That is awesome.
That is awesome.
So you're at your studio right now.
I am, yes. And there's other people in here, so you can probably hear them in the background.
Chairs and things like that. What's kind of the nature of your business? How do you're located out of a studio space, and you have photographers working with you?
I do. So we have, I think it's 1,500 square foot studio. About 1/3 of it's just our area where we are now. It's the nice area. We got carpet. We have pictures on the wall. We have comfy couches and TVs and stuff, and then the space that's right behind these pictures. I'm sorry, that's our shooting space. So we actually have 2 commercial bays back there. One set up with strobes that are set up with constant lights, and we shoot everything back there, from products to babies to headshots. Pretty much anything that we can do in studio that makes sense. I don't do a lot of portraiture back there just because I think it's kind of boring to do studio portraiture. And this is in no way, shape, or form any offense to anyone who shoots studio portraiture. I'm just not a fan of it. But yeah, we end up doing a lot of commercial stuff back there. So it's kind of crazy. People, you kind of walk in the back and you never know what's going to quite happen that day. I always go back to this one day where this guy comes in and says he had some necklaces for me to shoot, or bracelets for me to shoot, and he brings in 350 of them. That's a lot of bracelets.
350?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into it because I'll start to break a sweat. That was fun. Fun.
Cool.
So aside from your, so I know we talked a little bit because we have you were featured in an article on slrlounge.com, which you guys should check out. Awards artist feature Brian Mullins. We talked a little bit about your style of photography. How does that work if especially because you're doing half commercial, half wedding?
Yeah,
Do you have is there matching styles or?
they are. It's kind of funny. If anyone is really curious about the commercial side, I love weddings because you have the emotion, you get hugs, you get a great job, you get tears, and people are happy. And the commercial side, if you get a thank you with a check, I mean, that's baller. I mean, you've knocked it out of the park at that point. So it's really different, and it's so much more on the technical side, and it's you're doing a job. The client has contacted you, they need a product, and you deliver that product. That's kind of the nature of the business. But for the majority of it, it's technically really, really demanding. Where wedding photography is very kind of flow, and we can be really, really artistic. For commercial, it's not. You can absolutely be artistic, but you have to have your technical chops, because if you don't, a lot of times you're going to die a quick death, and you're going to have an unhappy client, and that's just no fun. So the technical aspect of the commercial stuff, I really bring in a lot to my photography, just because it lets me play. And the wedding artistic side makes me a better commercial photographer, just because I see differently.
Nice.
That's awesome.
What kind of sticks out in your mind from your 2017? What were some of your favorite weddings or favorite commercial shoots that you did? Is there anything that sticks out in your mind that was awesome?
Oh, yeah, sorry. A friend of mine, Dave Shea, just texted me, and he says, "I'm not texting you inappropriate things right now."
He's
Thanks,
busy,
Dave.
man. He's busy, Dave.
He also said "Woo Brian" on under the SLR Lounge live feed. You had a hi from Australia from Luke, and a hiya from Stacy.
Who also said there's no tips with corporate.
That's true. That's very true. God, I totally forgot what the question. Oh, favorite shoot of
Yeah,
2017.
from 2017. Weddings, corporate, anything that stands out in your mind.
I'll give a couple. So the image that actually ended up winning the Apex Award, that one actually was really cool, because we were at a wedding in a high rise in downtown Raleigh, and the kind of the go-to space. Oh, thank you.
Read the article.
The go-to space there, is you go outside, you've got this great cityscape, you've got the Capitol building right behind you, you've got a lot of good light because it's all being filtered in through the buildings, and we get downstairs, and I look outside, and I literally watch the rain, which I didn't even know was there, go from this to this, and we watched the revolving door start shaking.
Oh boy.
All right, so we're not going outside. And so we really kind of had to make do with what we had. So I did some stuff down in the lobby and some cool stuff, and I just kind of felt myself like, we got to kind of cut this short. So I started thinking of creative ways I can do something without using the outside, because we lost the lights, we had no weather, we had nothing, and the way the venue was set up, I didn't even have any clean space to get the couple away from everybody else, so we could work a little bit uninterrupted. So as I'm walking back upstairs, I see it's a spiral staircase that goes from the first floor to the second floor of this venue, and those are lights that are strung down through the spiral staircase. And I saw that they had this kick guard on this kick panel, it's plexiglass, and I was like, that would actually be really cool. And if anyone's curious, I'll actually post a shot without light and then a shot with light, so you can see the difference of what light it made.
Cool.
But it was just, I was like, yeah, you know what, let's just do this because I've got nothing. I mean, at this point, I am drawing a blank. It's like, well, all right, this is going to be a spectacular photo or a ridiculously awesome failure. So I'm okay with that. Let's just go. I ended up doing that shot, and I was just stoked when it came out. So that's definitely one of my favorites. And then, gosh, I'm trying to remember what year. I can't remember what the year that was. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think it was 2017, but it's close enough, so I'm just going to count it. I ended up picking up a architectural job for Amazon, and at the time they were doing they were helping sell vacation rentals, but they were partnering with like large hotels and boutique hotels, and they ended up calling me, and I went on a road trip to Savannah, Georgia, to Charleston, to Myrtle Beach. I think it was New Bern, North Carolina, and I took my kids with me. So I was on the road for 7 days photographing this amazing hotel. We stayed in a bed and breakfast in Savannah that was a 2,400 square foot suite with the three of us. And I had to tell my kids, I'm like, yeah, guys, no, don't get used to this. Yeah, this is not normal. The 10-person dining room table with the southern, candelabras, and yeah, so that was just really cool because I had a job to shoot, which was the architecture and the interiors and the exteriors, but I also had to go and just walk around town and photograph the amenities. And I didn't have any guidance at all. They're like, just shoot what you think is nice. So that was just a ball. That was just so much fun to go out and do and have that type of flexibility from a client and just say, hey, shoot with what you want with your eyeballs.
Cool. So you're doing wedding and commercial, and obviously like having a studio with obviously there's multiple people working in there. How do you what's your marketing strategy look like? How do you guys get your name out there, etc.?
Gotcha. So yeah, it's funny the way I have my studio set up. It's a little odd. So I have one other photographer here. We actually have a DJ in here as well. So we all trade business back and forth, but everyone has their own company. And so instead of trying to run a company where I have employees and I'm having to, and I don't want to say deal with that headache because it's not, but have that added pressure to be like, okay, I have to have all this stuff lined up for other people to do. We end up kind of working for each other as subcontractors, where I have Rebecca over here. Most times she second shoots with me, and she's so nice that sometimes I'm like, I'm dying. I'm in the weeds. Can you please design these 3 albums for me? What are you going to charge me? So we really kind of have this ad hoc labor force. And it goes both ways. When she needs a second shooter for her wedding, or she needs help with a commercial shoot, she's like, hey, Brian, can you help me with this? And we end up helping raise each other up. And we've been asked how do we make sure we don't compete. And I really wholeheartedly believe in, hey, it's the personality of the photographer first. And if you base your business on that, then you're never going to have competition. You're going to have clients who don't hire you because they just are a better fit with somebody. And that's a win for me too, because if you've been doing this for a while and you've ever had a client that's not a good fit with you, that's painful. And it's painful for them and it's painful for you. So we really kind of put our personality out, and that works out really well. And then our DJ in the office here, we refer each other back and forth all the time. We always ask when clients come in, hey, do you have a DJ? Oh, great, I have this guy right here. And it works out really, really well. And he does the same when there's when a client comes in, they need a photographer. We just meet him real quick and shake a hand, answer a couple of questions, and just get that warm face-to-face invite. As far as marketing, though, in a larger scale, I run print ads. We do Facebook stuff, Instagram stuff, and I'm in North Carolina, and every market's a little different. And what I found works the best here is just simply going out and meeting people, because here it's a very, very trust-based referral. If a hotel refers you, and you end up not getting along with a client, or it's not a good fit, or maybe you screwed up, or maybe the client wasn't clear, or whatever it was, the hotel looks at that and says, well, we referred you and you made us look bad, so we're just not going to refer you anymore. So So building that trust up for me is what's really, really been a good thing. And then just working with them, and talking with them if there is a problem. Anytime there's a problem, we're making 3 or 4 phone calls, with the venue. Hey, we just found out about this. What can you tell me? How can I better help this client? And that seems to work out really, really well. And I put that all under marketing because in the end, it's how our image of our company comes across.
So it seems like you got communication down really well, in your own building and in your community. So that's cool. That's pretty cool. How about 2018? What are you looking forward to?
Oh gosh. We've already got I think 20 weddings in the books, which at this time of year for us, that's great. We end up shooting about 40 a year. So that's awesome. We're really our weddings are really looking good, and I've just landed a couple of pretty large commercial clients that has a lot of work. So I'm super excited about that. It's almost all architecture. So I get to go fly drones. I get to go do HDR stuff. And that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to once it's not 20 degrees outside.
Cool.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
On a personal note, what are some of your
hey, no whispering.
I said don't. I was like, don't ask him about books.
No, ask me about books. I
was gonna ask if you do you binge watch Netflix, or do you like movies, or what do you like to do? What are your hobbies besides your kids?
So now that you've outed me about books, I legitimately have a stack of like 3 foot tall stack of books that I want to read, and Netflix gets me every time. I sit down, I'm like, oh, I can read this book, but I haven't caught up on Hell's Kitchen. That's my one guilty pleasure is watching Chef Ramsay just yell at everybody, and it makes me feel so good about my life choices. But yeah, so I love sci-fi movies, and it's really I love sci-fi movies because Star Wars was the first movie I ever saw, number one. So I'm already biased at that point. But with the scenery they can create, and knowing with my background of wanting to be in production, knowing that those guys are literally sitting in a green room. That's all they're doing. They have no idea what it's going to look like. I think that's absolutely amazing, the things that they can create. And so that just fascinates me, and it really kind of gets my creative juices flowing. Like, well, how can I alter my backgrounds, or how can I alter the location where I am from what we see with our eye to what we want to actually create?
That's cool. Nice.
Yeah. So, but I started watching The Flash. And I thought it was like, oh, it's one season, it's 20 episodes, I can do that. And I didn't realize it's like 3 seasons of like, I don't even know how many episodes. So it kind of, I don't want to quit now. I'm like halfway through the second season. I'm like, I don't want to quit this. I gotta go through it.
Gotta finish it out.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing all that. So we're gonna head over to slrlounge.com. We're gonna check out your profile, and let's talk about a couple of your photos, and then we'll hit up the critique section.
Cool.
All right, cool. So the cool thing about, well, I'm just gonna promote SLR Lounge a little bit here. One of the cool things about SLR Lounge is there's a lot of free content. You can also just create a free profile, and anybody can do that. And it'll look like this. Get a photo on there, your name, your website, and then you can put up a little portfolio, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then so you can see some of your photos that you put on here, and then you click on them and they enlarge a little bit there, and then
that's a dope photo.
That is super cool. You want to talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, sure. This one was actually funny. So, and forgive me because I'm going to totally screw up the name of the boat. And he beat it into me. I still can't remember the name of it. It's God. If anyone on Facebook could help me out, remember the name of this boat. It's I think it's like a crew. Is it a crew boat? Oh God, Roman crew. I can't remember.
Does anyone know? Want to drop it on
Um,
the?
well, all
Well,
right. So anyway,
It's okay.
it's a two-person racing rowboat.
Cool.
We're
yeah.
gonna go with that. And
Yeah.
that's what he did in college. So he was a rower, and she, I believe, was the coxswain on the bigger boats. So she was like barking out the orders of
Cool.
keeping everybody in rhythm. So they wanted to go to the boathouse and to do their engagement session, which I was, of course, really stoked with. And we got in there, and of course, I was me like, hey, can we borrow a boat? And they're like, cool. And so I started thinking, oh yeah, we do some stuff just like shooting, from the dock and shooting them in the boat. And then I remembered I had a drone in the car, and this is a multi-layered story. So what's really funny, this is on the UNC campus, and there happens to be an airport fairly close by. Um, and at this point, I already had my license. Uh, so I started doing the research and just checking, and the control tower had no phone number. It's not really a documented airport; it's a private airstrip. And it I had to just go around a lot or look at all the different regulations to see if I could actually legally fly there. Um, and so what we ended up doing was I ended up flying at treetop level. Now, what I didn't realize at the time, and they didn't tell me until I got back in the boat, was these things aren't balanced very well. So, so I'm like, hey, can you guys hold hands? And meanwhile, the boat, they're trying not to flip over. Because if you look, I mean, they're both athletic. So I mean, this boat is maybe 2 feet wide, and I was like, well, hey, can you lay down, put your head in this lap? And they're making like the no, 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 no
Oh,
symbols.
that's
Um,
funny.
but yeah, so this one was actually pretty cool, and um, the texture in the water just really made it stand out for me.
Cool.
Cool.
William said it's an X-wing. Just kidding. Sweet.
When you look down the back of a camera, it looks like a bug in the water. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I could see
That's
that.
pretty sweet. Do you wanna ask him about another? Give me one.
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, it's a story. Hmm. Hopefully someone-
You want to tell us
I
about
got it might be a scull boat. Stacy texted me and said it might be a scull rower.
that? Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Oh, this photo. I actually love this photo. This is this is one of the wedding venues we have. It's actually a private home instead of it being a true professional wedding venue. But they rent it out, and I love these guys. This is one of my favorite weddings from last year. This is Kristen and Jordan, and I I worked with their uncle, and his name is Arthur. And Arthur is up in Vermont, and this wedding was in North Carolina. So a lot of stuff that we were doing, him and I were talking kind of over the phone. And this wedding didn't have a DJ; it just had some games. They were just getting married outside of the venue. Um, Basically, wedding, dinner, a photo booth, some games, and that's it. So it's not really the traditional wedding for us here. And we ended up making it work. And I wanted to do something that was really cool for them. So when it got dark outside, I knew I loved the front of this venue, and I knew it had all the elements I was looking for a night photo. It just, it had some texture, it had some ambient light sources that we could go out and play with. And um, what you don't see, and what I photoshopped out is Rebecca holding a monopod with a flash on it. I don't know, I don't think you can see my mouse, but on that left pillar, that's just to the left of them. Literally, she's standing in front of that window, and the monopod is on that left pillar. So what we ended up doing to get her out was I grabbed the right side, cut it out, flipped it in Photoshop, moved it over, and pasted it back in.
Awesome.
Dude, really good job.
That,
That looks
yeah.
awesome.
So, oh, thank you. For anyone who wants to do that technique, it works really great as long as you sure you're in the dead center. If
Wow.
you are off even a couple of inches, the geometry gets wonky, and you're going to be trying to fix it for a good 30 minutes. So just make sure you get in the dead center. And the way I did that was I was looking at the windows and the distance between the pillar on the right and the pillar on the left.
Nice.
And making sure that was fairly lined up, and also the distance in the bricks between the front door and the pillars.
Yeah,
Cool.
good job.
So that's a good application of your commercial architectural eye.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Pull that off.
really
That's
good.
Exactly.
sweet.
And
Nice.
that was shot with a for those asking, that it was shot with a Magmod. We're going to call it a sphere. There's another word for it
Yeah.
that we use, but we're just going to call it a sphere.
Yeah.
And that was just on a flash on a monopod that I use off-brand flashes that are TTL, but I generally shoot them manually, so I can just dial up or dial down the power on my flash on camera.
Mhm.
So it just makes things go a lot quicker, because this wedding was in January, so it was cold.
Mhm. Yeah, it's perfect.
Cool. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna jump over to the photo critique section. So on slrlounge.com, across the top there, you can see Education Critique Awards Store Magazine. So if you go, the cool thing about when people put in critique, you can tag the photos, and so if you want to go in there and even learn some things by seeing how other photographers are critiquing other people's photos, you can just go in there and do a search. So we're going to take a look at wedding portrait. So here's wedding portrait, and you can scroll down and you can see that quite a few of these have some critique comments on them already. One thing that's really helpful for people submitting critique is to ask for specific critique, because that really helps the people who are offering the critique to you. So let's take a look at this one. This is from Greg. And this was from an assignment from one of the SLR Lounge courses, Lighting the Details. And he has some comments about it here. He says, for this image, I was in a big hurry. People were going to start entering the hall soon. I had my big light, my Alien Bees 1600 with a battery pack on a light stand. Standard reflector. I would simply line up a shot and point the light toward the cake, or toward the adjacent wall, and bounce. The room was large enough that light bounced off a wall toward the cake, wouldn't affect much of the rest of the room, at least not at the angle I was using it. I found it an effective tool, etc. And then you can see, his camera and his lens and etc. Cool. So as far as so he's looking at lighting this wedding cake. Do you have any initial thoughts, Brian?
I do, and sorry, I'm kind of looking over
Yeah.
just over the image. So, for me, the first obvious stuff that I really love is just the distance that he is from the cake is causing that really nice bokeh in the back. That's making all the light sources just go a lot softer and kind of faded out, so the cake is standing out more in the foreground. I'm sure also someone's going to give me a hard time about this one, but I really like how the chandelier is sitting right on top of the cake. It's like you gave the cake a light up sombrero.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look at the walls, because the walls look like they're more yellowish or off-white, and I know he was bouncing the light off the wall. One of the things that when I'm shooting in a larger room like this, that I try to always keep an eye out for is to not only use light to separate the subject from the background like you did here, but to also try to use the color of light to separate it from the background. So the one thing I'm kind of seeing is the cake's merging into the background a little bit just because the light appears to be all of the same uniform color. And so everything kind of is just feeling a little bit yellow. Now I know the cake's yellow, and I'd like to, I'd love to see this in person. I would like to see that cake stand out just a little bit more from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know he's in a hurry, so I would love to see him move that mic just 6 inches to the left, just to get it behind the cake so the mic's not coming out of the cake. That's
Yeah, that
overall
is.
sorry, Amy, go
Oh
ahead.
no, go ahead, Brian. What were you
No, I
gonna
say
say?
I do love the angle of the light that I meant to mention that before because the angle of that light really pulling the texture out of the, the linen and pulling it out of the detail on the cake and showing the detail on the ribbon. That's well done.
Cool. Great.
Yeah,
Great thoughts.
those are great thoughts. I would say all of the same things actually. Um,
And I think the first thing we saw right away was the mic stand because I get
yeah.
super picky on that stuff. I would have thrown it out of there real quick and not really thrown it, but moved it and put it back. But yeah.
That's beautiful.
But it's true when you're in a hurry, it's one of those things where you're like later on, you're like, oh man, how did I
Yeah,
not see that, right?
right.
Yeah, and especially at this time, I know for us when we walk into a room, that's the first thing we shoot is the cake because if there's anything bad that's gonna happen, it's gonna be to the cake. So we always try to get a photo of it, in its
Good point, actually.
in its existence right there before before any kid sticks their finger into it or someone bumps the table or just any other bad things that could happen to it.
That's a really good tip.
That is a good.
I'm gonna file that one away for myself, actually. Okay, so so we'll scroll down here. Constantinos has a couple. It's like he has three. Looks like from the same wedding. Matthew has some good comments, good critique on this one. So let's go to these other two and see what we can come up with for these. And he's asking for posing and lighting tips.
Gotcha. So first of all, I really like this image. I think this is really well done. It's a good eye to catch the reflection and to hide the source of the reflection. That's one of my big pet peeves is when you have a reflection, try to be nuanced with it and what's actually reflecting. And in this case, I think he did a really great job. I think the lighting's pretty well done on this. It's uniform. It's soft. It's directional. I'm sorry, when I say uniform, it's uniform color. The direction's great. You don't have any harsh shadows. You've got nice fall off and a nice wrap around her arm. The posing, I'd love to see her open up a little bit more because it just feels like her left arm is just kind of coming out of her dress a little bit. I just love to see her open up a little bit more to the camera just so we can kind of see what that left arm is connected to.
Yep. Yep. And I think for me, it's and Amii had, I think, we were looking at this just before we got on with you, and Amii had this thought that because I thought the arm placement just was a little maybe forced or unnatural. Like I don't know that somebody would necessarily like turn their arm, that way. But I think Amii was made a good point that the photographer might have been trying to get, to see it in the reflection, and so that might be what she was going there with that pose. But what do you think about that, Amii?
Yeah, I think it would have looked a bit more natural maybe if the bride's arm was just around the groom's head or something like that. But
I think opening up a bit more might have solved that
yeah,
problem too.
opening
So
up a bit more would have solved that problem as well. That's a good point, babe. So,
but I really like. I feel like the groom's hand positions are really nice. Because sometimes that can get a little forced too, but it looks like, he very naturally, he's very naturally holding her hand, and I love the placement of his hand on her back, which sometimes can be, I get really picky on that, because I want the groom to be, holding his bride how he normally does. And sometimes, like under the pressure of the day or something like that, they kind of forget, or their hands are spread way apart, or something just looks off a little bit. But I like how that looks.
Yeah, I agree completely. And he looks, they look totally engaged with each other.
That's a
And
good point too.
Yes, that's what I was just going to comment on as well. I love how her eyes are closed and she looks like she's just taking in the moment, and
yeah,
he's adoring her. There's a lot of emotion with the pose as well, which is really good.
yeah, and that's kudos to I don't want to butcher your name, Konstantinos. Hey, I did it. Sweet.
Yeah,
That's a hard thing to pull off on the wedding day is to actually get a good, genuine moment like that. And we're forever telling our clients, get your hips together. It's one of my hugest pet peeves in the post photos when you have them close, but their hips aren't touching. And to me, that's one of the biggest giveaways of just, how's the day going? How are they feeling? And so I think he did a fantastic job of just getting them together and getting them to kind of melt into a single shape instead of it being two individual shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Take a look at his other one here. So same couple. How can I improve the lighting and the feeling of this photo?
Gotcha. So overall, actually, I really like the photo. And let's be honest. I mean, we're shooting in a bedroom. It looks like so.
Yeah.
Your options are really kind of limited here. Um, Looking at what the lighting is, it looks like maybe there's like a overhang on the window or something that's keeping the light from coming from above because the brightest part of the window is below. So that's that those are some pretty challenging circumstances. Um, it looks like they're using a flash probably just like right off the ceiling is what I'm looking at. Just judging on the shadow, being caused by her arm. Sorry, this is me analyzing. You don't have to write all this stuff down. um, in this one, for me personally, with that light source and the texture that you already have in the room, I would have loved to have seen something more directional coming from off camera. Something that will really allow you to kind of pull down the ambient light in the room to highlight them a little bit more. That's for a lighting note. That's the one thing that I maybe would have tried. And of course, it's a wedding day, so we never know how much time we have.
Right. Yeah.
But I think they did. I think he did a great job given what we have to deal with. Some of the challenges that he was facing was if you look at her dress right around where her waist is, it starts to get completely blown out because of the brightness of the window.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with a light source that's that bright, trying to bounce a flash doesn't always work just because you don't have enough horsepower in your flash.
Cool.
I think that, we were pretty much thinking of the same things with this photograph. The emotion is beautiful again. Konstantinos, you're doing, an awesome job of having your couples really connect and obviously, really help them to feel comfortable to share their emotion in front of the camera. As far as lighting goes, I think we would have probably turned off the lamp because our eyes kind of go right to the lamp almost equally as much as they do to the couple. So perhaps turning off the lamp, kind of darkening the room a little bit, maybe closing the window a little bit so it's more of a sliver of light to create more of a directional light on them, I think would be nice. But again, it is beautiful. Like you said, Brian, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely on that. You know, just make that light source a smaller light source, and make everything darken the room down a little bit so it's not quite as I don't want to call it flat because a lot of people think flat's bad, and I disagree. Flat light is not bad in my opinion, but just add a little more contrast. Making that light source a little bit smaller would definitely help.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Brian. Thanks for
Yeah, thanks. Really
sharing your
appreciate it.
insight.
I think one thing too is if you look at what I like to see too between these two, like he obviously has like some consistency. If you look at the two photos,
Yeah. Editing is consistent.
Yeah.
His coloring, his toning. That's really nice.
It is, yeah, and that's a very good point, guys. You know, just having that level of consistency between multiple photos at the same wedding is super important, and it's not something that a lot of people actually will vocalize, especially clients. But it definitely subconsciously they're paying attention to that.
Cool. Okay. I am going to head back off the screen share.
I'm glad I wasn't doing anything embarrassing. I mean,
Oh yeah, I should have. Well, we could see you. We could see you way up in the corner the whole time. So. Yeah, cool. Well, really appreciate you being here with us today, Brian. Great stories.
Yeah.
Great critique. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah.
How can people stay connected with you? What's your why don't you look us up with your social media handles? Are you going to be anywhere interesting? I know you mentioned you're going to be at WPPI this year.
yeah, I'll definitely be at WPPI. I'm one of those boring guys. I started trying to come up with like these really clever business names, and I tried for about 2 days and realized that all of the good business names that I liked were taken. So, so I went Brian Mullins Photography, but luckily I don't have any doppelgangers out there. Um, there is a Brian Mullins who invented Oh Crap cereal. So if you search for Brian Mullins, you'll find the Oh Crap guy. That's not me. He is the colon cleansing cereal. I'm not kidding.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
So. But Brian Mullins Photography, that's me. You can find me on Facebook under that name, on Instagram, and that's where I've been putting a lot of my efforts is on Instagram, just because I think Facebook, with their changes, it's too hard to kind of get your message out, and Instagram's a lot easier way to just kind of tag your content and to put it out there to the audiences that you want to see.
Awesome.
And I'm not even going to mention Twitter because I try to stay off Twitter these days. It just
I tried to do Twitter a while ago, and we can't keep up with it all.
Yeah.
It's like impossible. So maybe when one of our kids are older, they'll take over our Twitter handle. I don't know.
Well, let me see. Well, you've got a Twitter social media agent up there. You got Facebook, you got Instagram, and you got 2 spares. I mean, you're good.
It's true. Well, we get on Ello every once in a while too, which is nobody really does, but check that one out. Anyway, cool. Well, just a reminder to everybody who's joining us, make sure to check out the December SLR Lounge Award winners. That article just posted today, and get your submissions in by the end of the month for the January awards. And we're stoked to have Brian on here, who's won an Apex Award. Make sure you check out his artist feature article. Check him out online, Brian Mullins Photography. And thanks, Brian. You rock.
Oh, guys, thank you. I appreciate you having me and listening to me drone on about photos for a little bit.
You're awesome, Brian. All right, guys, we hope you have the most beautiful day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.